It's time. We are getting people in the meeting. I can see the attendees. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Vlad. I'm the head of business development for HRMS Guide. With me here is Nick Omelchak from PeopleForce. Hi, Nick. How are you doing?
Hello, guys. I'm an account executive here at PeopleForce, and I hope today everyone is in a good mood for a good talk about today's topic, right? Building an effective employee journey with PeopleForce from first day to first year. So I'm thrilled. How are you, Vlad? Are you thrilled?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting theme, and I guess we'll wait a few more minutes for people to join in. And I think this is a very interesting webinar because what we're going to be doing is talking about sort of the digitalization of employee journey on one hand, but then on top of it, we'll touch base and discuss one of our latest projects. So the implementation of PeopleForce at Staff Change, an Estonian company. And I think one thing which is very kind of cool about it is that obviously you and I, our teams will have these sort of offboarding talks after every project where we talk about what went well, what we can do better. We talk about customer expectations. You talk about the PeopleForce development pipeline, and we kind of try to get to know what is going to be in the future, how to make customers happier. And Staff Change, in this case, it was a very cool project because for me, I was running it obviously, it was like a little bit different because for them, many things that we would typically expect from a company were prioritized differently. So, what do you do with contracts? Well, there's a different angle. And I will talk about Staff Change in a few minutes in more detail. And then things like legislation. How do you look at it? Completely different angle from most of our projects in Baltics and Nordics. So it was very interesting. And this is when Nick proposed to have a webinar where we talk about those I wouldn't say irregularities because, again, that's a great company. They do a great job. But trying to sort of work and improve their processes in HR through digitalization, it was kind of a different and interesting way of doing it. For me, it was my first HR implementation for a staffing agency. PeopleForce already has some more customers in this field, but still, each time we do it, it's kind of a different and new challenge, I think. So to get on with the housekeeping rules, we have chat, we have Q&A. So please write any questions you have in there. We will try to answer them as we go. After the presentation on the project and the employee life cycle, we will have a session, short one by Nick, where we kind of have a tiny look into PeopleForce. When we do PeopleForce presentations, I tell people that they should allocate at least 2 hours if we want to really have a good deep dive, because there's just so much to see. But today we'll have a sneak peek. If that's not enough, it shouldn't be. Please reach out to Nick or myself here on LinkedIn, email, and we're happy to schedule the sessions. Also, I think we announced it. 5 people who have registered to the webinar will receive free HR digitalization appraisals from HRMS Guide. It's just like call it a digital doctor HR session. It takes an hour. There are no bindings. We talk about what you do, what you want to achieve with your HR, and how digital tools can help you. And of course, I encourage everyone to have a look at PeopleForce get a free trial demo account, play around with it, and of course Nick and the team are ready to help you explore that. So with no further ado, I will try to share my slides here. All right. One of the things which I really like about HR is the fact that we can really change and improve the way people work. And it's not so much about the, I guess, psychology, but about the fact that the data helps us understand and improve processes. Because one of the challenges which we have seen lately is that HR managers, they often struggle to justify investment into digital HR. And this is something which can be changed quite rapidly today, because if you think about it, especially for companies which we see a lot today, which are large, medium-sized, and have not invested into digitalization, then they actually can gain a lot by improving HR technology. And this is a concept and the thought which have been with me for about 10, 50 years, give or take. That's one of the reasons why I established HRMS Guide. And as a company, we're a small boutique agency in Estonia. We try to help each customer sort of look at their own processes, their own needs, and ensure that the technology is there to help them, but not block the way they have been developing and evolving. I have literally written a book on HR technology, unfortunately in Estonian. That's a huge tragedy. But then a lot of that in the book and what we teach at our company to our customers is through the experience which myself and my colleagues have had in various companies locally in Estonia. We're based in Tallinn, but also in international corporations and in organizations. So the company which we're going to be using as a case study today is, as mentioned, Staff Change. That's an Estonian company. They have an office in Estonia, Tallinn, but they also have offices in Ukraine, Bulgaria, and a few other locations. And they are a staffing agency. So what it means is that if you're a company, especially in manufacturing, logistics, similar field, they are helping you get new staff. They hire those, they screen those, they let you vet them, and then they are also sort of kept on the payroll of Staff Change, which is very convenient. Because if you are producing windows and you need people who are experts in glass manufacturing, Staff Change can bring those to you in a couple of months and then make sure that those are the good people and you don't have to deal with all the legal issues which are sort of related to staff relocation. That's a very, I think, important service because, again, Estonia, tiny country, 1.3 million people, give or take, we have those issues. Fortunately, Staff Change also works in Latvia, Lithuania, and Nordics, so they're kind of a big thing. But again, I think it's a very important service. And for them, the process of managing employees, even though they have hundreds of people working for them, it's a little bit different because from HR perspective, it's like if you're an HR manager, often it's not like you're managing 400 employees of your company, but it's like you are managing 40 different companies with 4 employees each. So it gets tricky and it gets a little bit messy. And when we started working with Staff Change, one of the key priorities has been, first of all, improving the quality of customer support. So the level of employees, the communication with customers should be better. for as high as it is, at least, and then also improving the well-being of employees. Because many of employees who they give to their customers who are employed by staff change are actually relocated. So when someone comes to Estonia from, I don't know, Ukraine, India, Kenya, you name it, they want to be sure that that employee is happy, and employee happiness effectively translates into the customer happiness for them. So it's not your usual, I just hired a person who lives next door to me to work at my company and there are no problems, but it's a much like broader profile of recruitment, and they have to take care of those people, not for themselves technically, but for the customers, the companies who are hiring those employees. And they're very good at it. But the whole process for them became more and more complicated as they grew, because there was so much Excel involved, for one. And the second part was, and that's the reason we initiated the project with PeopleForce, was that the solution we used to date, they had to abandon it. Now, there are reasons for it, very objective. I will not go into details there, but they needed a new tool, which would be better for employees, better for customers, and better for the company. So, staff change, staffing agency located in Estonia, providing employees to companies in Northern Europe. That's our case today. And I will be reverting to that regularly. When we talk about the employee life cycle, and that's something which we discuss a lot in our company and with our customers, I think it's very important to realize that it's a real cycle, and every HR manager who's dealing with this needs to appreciate the fact that people who join our company, our team, are going to be digitally involved in it. So technically speaking, our methodology says that there are 10 steps. Because we have so little time today, we boil it down to 5. And I'm immediately going to say that the first step is not acquisition. Let me explain. Often, when we think about people joining our company, we think that hiring is the first step, but it's not. Actually, we're talking about talent, about skills, about capability, about the performance which we expect, and the value of the employee. And all of those things we actually can and should be able to forecast in advance. So when we talk to companies, and I think that actually PeopleForce is a great example here, we need to think about what do we want to get out of our employees before we actually start working on the recruitment process. So hiring managers, and if you think about company, think about different roles, different departments. You have different hiring managers. Now, all of those are going to have some sort of responsibility, some sort of priority. And in HR, it's very important to have a clear link, clear communication to map those needs. So if we, for example, look down or look back, at staff change, they have, I think now 7 project managers who are working with different customers, hiring those outside employees. And for them, so again, you have a project manager who talks to company, let's say Glass Windows. Glass Windows says, I need to have 5 glass producers, manufacturers, welders work for us in 2 months. Then this hiring manager in staff change has to go back to his colleagues in HR hiring and then say that, look, I need these people in 2 months. Now, that sounds logical, but there's a huge problem there. The problem is that the time is very short, because we said, customer said today, hiring manager said in 2 months, the recruitment manager only has 2 months to find the right people to match the job. And in a normal company, 2 months would be fine, because, well, again, 2 months to hire someone regularly, that's fine. But if we are talking about a very dynamic business, and in staff change case, customers always tell them that we need these people yesterday. It means that the HR department, hiring department, they need to have a pipeline which is hot and ready to go. So the communication becomes kind of key. And this is one of the things which I would really like if you can take from today's webinar, is that when you talk within your organization, so when HR talks to other functions, you sort of try to focus on which skills, which talents, which priorities are in there. Because HR can run 24/7 recruitment campaigns, like on LinkedIn, your online website, portal, CVE, Monster, whatever, and get talent information into their databases. For example, like PeopleForce. PeopleForce is great at categorizing candidates. So they have the data on the candidates at hand. But what you need to get sort of done is ensuring that the HR, you, and the business owners, the hiring managers, talk to each other, because then you can map out the priorities, the skills, and make sure that it's not 4 months, 6 months, but the hiring process is much faster. And in staff change, again, this has been amplified heavily, because their customers want new hires immediately, and they're paying for it. So that's something which has been critical for the planning and acquisition part there. We did some exercises. We looked at literally all of the recent hires over the past 4 years. We had a look at the employees which they have right now. We mapped out the skills. We went through those skills and did a lot of things. Sorry, again, can't go into the details, but we ensured that the hiring team and the project managers were in sync. And I think that someone in the HR role today should really be thinking about it, because as long as you have the correct data about the requirements of people who are going to be joining you, and the people's profiles, candidates, you can really make it work. So we were able to achieve it with PeopleForce, and actually I think that's a really cool thing. One of the things you definitely don't want to do, and I think my recommendation will change, is just dump all of it on AI. Because many companies nowadays are taking in ATS, applicant tracking systems, which are heavily focused on using AI. They just screen out the candidates, and you honestly lose on a lot of talent, potential candidates. So be wary when you are, again, you talk to your hiring managers, you have a strategy, you need the skills you want to acquire for your organization, your employees. Do use AI, but don't overdo it, because it's at the moment, at least, it's not good enough. Another thing is that, again, staff change is a great example of that. We need to put more focus towards internal mobility. This means that with AI, given we will see transformation of roles. So person who does A might end up doing B. Maybe there's going to be a merging of roles, things like that. And as HR professionals, it's very important to realize that internally, if we already have a person in place, we have vetted him, we have invested into him or her, um, we might be able to use him in a different role, like to move a person who is working in a warehouse to a customer support role, or someone who is working in sales to move them into marketing. And those kind of movements, they're extremely important. And again, from technology perspective, for example, PeopleForce in this case, as long as you have the skills map, a skill-based movement is very, very important. Once we move the person into our organization, so we found them, we hired them, staff change was a great kind of example of how difficult things can get, because they take care of most of the onboarding, meaning that the documentation, change of location, renting out the apartments, dealing with basic things like adoption of your car license or driving license. They take care of that. And again, from technology perspective, that's very difficult because you spend a lot of time with that, Word digging, Excel digging, building up folders in Google Drive. It's very, very time consuming. So our advice to customers has always been that you should try to make as much of it as possible digital. So when an employee joins your company, you should have a very clear onboarding path, and then we just go through it step by step, first day, next day, meetings, etc. Now, one of the lessons which we have learned with staff change, okay, we've had those before, but still, was that many of your employees who are blue collars, they hate computers, like literally hate. You tell them to go to a website, as in click the link, upload your photo, and then their world collapses completely. They refuse to do it, and that's a problem. Still, unfortunately. So, what we did with staff change uh, was simply cut it up into baby steps. So, new employees got instructions in video form. They still had to click one link, but what to do, where to go, which documents to upload, how it worked. It was a very tedious job, to be honest, but at the end of the day, the employees were kind of getting a hang of using the system. And that's very important when you are talking about HRMS implementation, because you need like those tiny hooks, those tiny wins, which make your employees comfortable with the system. And onboarding and the core HR part of it are very, very important, because if you don't do it like correctly from the get-go, it's very difficult to build up. Because if you think about it, let's assume you have 100 people who are used to not using your HR solution, not using HR service portal, and then you start like getting more and more new people coming in. Well, the old people are going to be saying, and that's going by default, unfortunately, that the new system is bad, everything was better before. So your win is kind of make sure that the new people are happy, and then also work on having the people who already are with you also be happy with the new system. And I think when we talk about PeopleForce here, it was very comfortable because of one of the things, because of the language. We had five nationalities in staff change, and they could use the system in their own language. So that was a huge thing for them. So documents, interfaces in their own language, that was really, really helpful. And that's something which you should consider when you think about onboarding and core HR. I'm running out of time. So when we move forward, and again, you'll have the slides, don't worry. One of the things which we noticed and we have discussed a lot about with staff change was the fact that employees who stay with them, who work on different projects, they tend to kind of lose motivation on one hand. On the other hand, even more dangerously, they tend to try to get a different job or same job but at a different employer. And that's a very realistic problem because let's say you are a Ukrainian construction worker. You come to Estonia through PeopleForce, through staff change. You find your job, you're working here, you are happy, and then you will want to make some more money. And again, you have a contract with staff change. You're working for a company XYZ, but then you see that company ABC is looking for someone with your profile and is offering a little higher salary, for example. So that's a very real problem for staff change, and that's something they wanted to address, and they did it. And the way they did it was quite simple, in a sense that they wanted to make sure that people who are on the same team, so again, for them, a team is a group of employees who work for a particular customer, that those people get awarded. So with most customers, they have an agreement that if some project, some work, some deadlines are fulfilled successful, there's like a small premium. It might be monetary, it might be some stuff, but that employees who work on this project, like those 5 people, would get a message saying, we did really good job last month for customer ABC, and this is why everyone gets €50 bonus, €100 bonus. And that kind of recognition was super important, because before they had issues when project manager was contacted by a customer who said that, look, you guys did great, John did really great, I want to pay John €100 bonus. And then John did get his bonus, but for the entire team's motivation, it did nothing. So instead, what they did was to refocus it on team performance, ensuring that the bonus was recognized as a team achievement and communicated through PeopleForce platform, and that really worked quite well. Also, since staff change does a lot of sort of those things I mentioned before, onboarding, managing apartments, equipment, they really doubled down on getting the feedback. It got kind of granular at some point, like you have an apartment, you have some spoons there, are you happy about the spoon quality? That kind of level. But again, the feedback from employees who came from abroad, from other countries to Estonia, working on projects for companies who are not their employer, that sort of feedback loop was super important. And in case of staff change, I think they have been managing it quite well before, but now they're kind of getting to a new level, and it's also impacting how happy their customers are. because employees are handled in a proper way, respectfully. There's development, new skills are looked on, and there are, again, from HR perspective, opportunities for the development and more sales. Because if you have a welder of category 2 and he's ready and open to take some new courses, he's improved. Again, we can track it in the PeopleForce system. He can ask for training, he can get training, then he gets improvements, and if he's working on project A, he can be moved to project B because his competences are better suited for that. He gets a pay raise, he's happy, and we're happy because we're not losing him because he's just leaving to work for another company. So the performance and career growth aspects are hugely important. And then kind of last but not least are issues related to compensation time management. Now, first of all, I would say that time management and payroll are extremely important. And at the same time that most of HR managers I speak to hate them. The reason is quite simply the fact that from a productivity perspective, these are menial tasks where you only have to do the calculations and that's it. On the other hand, especially when we come to compensation, our employees obviously want to make sure that they get paid what they want. And staff change was very special in that concern because the way employee time got tracked was not through their own central system, but rather through reports of the customers. So a customer who has a team of staff change employees would give a monthly report sorry, saying how many hours did that employee work. And based on the contract, the customer would pay staff change and staff change would pay the employee. So there are overtimes, there are special performance fees, bonuses, etc. And that is kind of usual if you do it in your own company. But for staff change, that was amplified by basically tens of customers who use their employees. And it meant that every customer was trying to send some sort of their own Excel spreadsheet, which showed how many hours, how many details, special items each of staff change employees created and used for the customer. And it was honestly a nightmare. Still is, kind of. Because many customers still use their own custom spreadsheets. But the important part here is that what we did with staff change was go through the different Excel reports, which customers send in monthly, and look at what could be optimized. And optimized meaning that we want to have a standardized reporting from customers. Given there may be discrepancies, special policies, etc. Again, staff change is very open to those things. I personally disagree with it. I think they should enforce a very strict reporting template, but they are very customer focused, customer friendly, so they take in a variety of spreadsheets. But what we did was use PeopleForce to change a lot of fields, so add custom data to performance metrics to the timesheets, and to ensure that staff change can actually import those Excel sheets every month into the system. and make the whole process of figuring out which employee did how many hours and when very, okay, I wouldn't say very simple, but much, much simpler. And what we're working on now, for example, is an sort of universal API interface. And by the way, PeopleForce has an API, so you can pull data into PeopleForce, no problem. What we want to do in HRMS guide is create a customized interface for importing time tracking data. Because the challenge is that, for example, when employees in Estonia do overtime, then that's one type of calculation. Employees in Finland do overtime, that's a different one. And that obviously impacts the data which PeopleForce aggregates and the data which it has to export to the payroll solution to actually calculate what kind of salary gets paid out. Because again, staff change is an interesting organization in the sense that some of the salary is paid out here in Estonia, and some of the salary for some employees might need to get paid out in different countries. So there's a lot of balancing, and they need to ensure that the laws are followed. But in order to do that, the local legislations, including things like overtime, need to be balanced out. I'm getting towards the end of my presentation here, and I think it's important to remember that the system which we are using for HR, the digital platform, is the foundation for communication with employees. I've mentioned it before, but many surveys have showed that without clear communication, without the employees being sure of what's happening, there are going to be problems. And with a platform which is very easy to navigate, a platform which shows the progression of a company and the employee in the company, the retention rates, the engagement, they are rising. There is no working around it. You need to talk to people, and in the new age of AI, the human-to-human communication, literally like a small note that thank you for doing that job, or your team did great, those things are extremely important. And if you don't have a tool, a platform, to track things like their performance and look at which employees are actively engaged, you're in trouble. Because on one hand, we know that we will be replacing a portion of our employees with AI. On the other hand, we also know that we will want our best employees to be with us, to be engaged, and to be happy because we talk to them. Smaller companies can manage it by having a cup of coffee after work. Bigger companies need to do much, much more and need a systematic approach. So I think that PeopleForce and what we have seen in staff change has done a lot, because this internal communication, the messages, especially focused team messages, have done a lot for the engagement. And last and not least, when we go to the whole digital employee life cycle, of course, is the offboarding part. Now, we may think of offboarding as something which is off-putting and something which we kind of do for a check mark. But actually, I think that offboarding is one of the best places to get information about our employees. The reason for that, quite simply, is the fact that when we're discussing offboarding, then employees have a kind of free room to tell the truth. So they don't care, they are leaving us. And that means that we can ask them about anything. Now, ask them about anything is great, but importantly, we want to ask them about issues which we think are existing, the processes, the skills, the expectations which were met, not met. And we want to have a very clear structure to that process. So PeopleForce in that sense, in the staff change project, it allowed us to create a very clear offboarding process. So when an employee worked on a project, we decided to leave, we had like steps starting from the resignation towards getting their assets. And assets, by the way, also are hugely important, I think, for many companies, because I can give you another example, not staff change, a different company we worked with, where employees were doing security duties. So think about people who are like security guards in a shop. And one of the assets was the jacket, like literally jacket saying security company name. And if a company left, if an employee left the company but kept the jacket, he or she could come back to the pretty much any place they were servicing and, I don't know, take anything. And if another employee would ask them what they were doing, like, why are you taking away this 60-inch 4K 10,000 euro TV, they would say, I work for the security company, and they would just take it away. Obviously, that would be a one-time thing, but still a huge problem. And the asset itself, the jacket, it doesn't cost much, but it's very important. In other cases, assets may be very expensive. I mean, cars, phones, anything else. And what we did with the staff change, we really dug deep into the assets. So that's kind of a two-part journey. On one hand, we very rigorously wrote down the assets a person gets through onboarding. So that process got nailed down, and we ensured that all the assets are in place, recorded. And then on the offboarding side, again, we ensured that all of the assets are accounted for and mapped in the system. Because some of them can be reused, some should be destroyed, some could be returned to their customers, but the asset acquisition and disposal became a really big thing. And then one more thing about offboarding, and that's something which is currently work in progress, and I think many companies should be looking deeper into, is the actual alumni program, meaning that when you have people who worked for you, who you enjoyed working with, do include them into some events. Like, you worked for my company, let's call it Birch Enterprises, and we have a Birch blooming holiday party on March, or let's say April 15th, and you invite your ex-employees there. And it sounds silly, but it's something which is very motivational to your existing employees and also folks who left. Because if you leave on good terms, maybe they want to come back. And the fact that they do is, for one, I guess, a statement that your company is really good and people want to come back to it. And on the other hand, it's also a signal to everyone who works in the company that if they do good, they have a home that we can back to. And that's something which we're working on with PeopleForce to sort of make this alumni functionality maybe a little bit broader. It's already doable in the current state, but we're looking at new ways of doing it. So I'm rounding up about HRMS guide. So we're an agency in Tallinn, Estonia. Obviously, we travel all around Europe, and we can do online sessions. In a nutshell, what we do is we help companies prepare for digitalizing, improving their HR processes. Then, when we have the needs mapped out, everything is clear, we help select the tools. It can be one or more systems, really, to implement. And then, once those tools are chosen, the choice is always on the customer. We help with the implementation and post-implementation support. Every customer for us is very special. So as much as I personally love PeopleForce, we do have almost 30 partners, technology partners working with us. But we make sure that every customer gets the best choice. And at the moment, I can say that PeopleForce is definitely one of the best choices you can have in HR technology in the Europe. If you want to ask me more questions, personal ones, please contact me. You can use the QR codes or contact me on LinkedIn. And at this point, I realize that I haven't really been looking at the questions in the chat, but I'm also ready to give the word over to Nick.
Thank you, Vlad. Thank you for this awesome presentation, right? And thank you for sharing our experience with change, right? So staff change, it was a real example of a company with like people with blue collar employees, like a lot of them, and they were really into their Excel sheets, and they didn't want it to transfer from these Excel sheets, and it was a hard one, right? So we did a lot of work to convince to set up the system, but eventually we did actually fit their needs, and we replicated all the processes within PeopleForce, right? So we did that. So PeopleForce is a tool, right? We have a lot of functionality fitting for different companies, fitting for different needs. But again, it's a tool, right? So if you're building a tool without any practical knowledge about the tool, you can't build a decent synergy between the processes you're trying to build, right? You can't build an effective strategy. So our team, Vlad, we all are here to help, right? So if you will have questions about how to build this and that, we're always open to any kind of consultation for you and your team members as well. So today I'll try to show you something, right? So I'll try to briefly, really briefly, we don't have much time, but I will try to show you the mind map of Vlad's presentation, right? So from the very beginning, so he started with the recruitment, right? So recruitment is essential in finding new employees in our system, right? So in PeopleForce, recruitment can not necessarily, but can start with the forming up of a hiring plan. You can do so here in PeopleForce. Hiring plan is can be eligible for your hiring managers, your fellow recruiters as well, for CEOs of the companies, right? So you define who will be able to create a vacancy request. But the vacancy request here in PeopleForce allows you to structure and understand the future scope of your work within your hiring process as well. To form up a hiring plan, your colleagues or you have to proceed with filling in the hiring form, right, which will define what specific information you will need to enter about the vacancy itself. So you can name the vacancy whatever, right? You can affiliate it with your company structure, because PeopleForce will store information about your company and its structure, what departments, what locations, what divisions you have in the company. If you have teams, if you don't have teams, right, whatever. Everything can be replicated over here, and when you will be finding for new people, they will be hired specifically onto the specific position, onto the specific division, and within the specific priority that you defined by this vacancy request form over here. Once we have a vacancy request, it will be in the hiring plan. And out of the successful vacancy request, we define whether it's successful or no, because we can, as recruiters, we can approve it, right? And once it's approved, we can, start the vacancy out of that. In the vacancy, we can start working with our candidates, right? So these candidates can appear in this hiring pipeline from the list of our integrations, from the list of your campaigns, from parsing, from the career website, whatever. But we can start working with these people in the pipelines that we've created. By the way, we can create our own pipelines and automate them. So when new people are coming to the deal stage in your pipeline, they will immediately receive an email. You will be able to set a task to your fellow recruiters and control this task, right? And control the finishing of this task as well. You can send a test to your candidate, right? Well, it can be a pre-screening test or a feedback form about the work of your employee. You can tag your candidates to work with the candidate database more effectively and easy, right? So you'll be able to take over the whole hiring process in PeopleForce. And when the fitting person is right here, right? You found it. You have it in your pipeline, and you've sent it. You've sent him or her the offer, and they signed the offer, and you successfully checked that in the list of signed offers. So now you can hire an employee. You can hire him in basically 2-3 clicks, right? So you can select a hire form, which will, in its turn, will launch the successful onboarding. And there was a question about the onboarding in the Q&A section today, right? So what's the benefit of digitalized onboarding? So the benefit of digitalized onboarding is in automation and taking control over the process, plus being able to control not only the affected by onboarding employees' performance, but also his colleagues who will be definitely involved into his onboarding process as well. In PeopleForce, you can build different processes, right? And these processes can start differently. So in cases like onboarding, they can start manually because they will be triggered by a hiring form, or they can be tied to specific date in employee's lifetime, like first day of his employment or last day of his employment or end of his probation period, whatever, right? So you can tie some processes. Something has to happen, but tied to specific day in employee's life cycle, or they can be recurring, or pretty much whatever, right? So you can build the effective process over here. And this is the example of the onboarding. I was building it up with my clients of mine, right? So basically, it replicates the sequence of events that will lead to the successful onboarding of one or two different people in our companies. We can have as many onboardings in PeopleForce as we want to, right? So if we want to onboard sales people and marketing people differently in our company, we can do so as well, because different positions require different approaches, different set of tasks or whatever. So we have a trigger, something starts the whole process. And to this trigger, we can add some action items. Something has to happen, right? So this can be a task, right? So we can set a basic task. We can set a task. We can name it whatever, right? We can set when exactly the task will start, like when the workflow is triggered, or we can delay it for some days, right? So we're defining the time frame when the task will actually start. We can set a due date for the task as well. We can set a description and share whatever kind of media information with our employees, right? So we can insert a video with autoplay, good for onboardings, by the way, so people can easily access video information within their onboardings, right? You can send them some files, you can send them some images or links or whatever, and then you will define who will be affected by this task, right? It can be an affected employee, the one who is currently onboarding, or his manager, because the system will have the information about your company structure. It will be structured in a way so the system will understand who is the manager of who has direct reports, who has indirect reports, right? Who is a divisional manager or departmental manager, right? So we will keep track of all this information, and the system will understand who is who in the company. Or you cannot apply this task to a specific employee, right? If you want some specific agent to do something in this onboarding, you can appoint agent to be responsible for this, right? So you can do so. You always can enable substitutions. If, for instance, agent is sick, now we want his manager to be in charge, right, of this task. So system will take precise control over everything. It can help you not to forget something, right? It will help you to specifically build the process that you require from your onboarding. It helps you to do so. Another action item is the email. You can send the email to your employees, right? You can send an email, again, the same recipient types over here, but we can now send external emails. If we didn't create the person's profile in the PeopleForce, right, we can send something to like his Gmail, or we don't have his, let's say, Google Workspace yet, right? But we have his like personal Gmail. So now we can send him something. We can send something like onboarding packages. It's replicated on this in this onboarding flow, right? We can send an onboarding package which can contain some specific, let's say, media materials, right? Or we can attach some like files to that, company presentations or whatever. So we can share something with a new hired employee, and he will be able to learn about the company from the email, let's say, or something else, right? Later on, you can build all the tasks, all the emails, all the sequence one by one, right? So you can add this action items both to the trigger, or you can build dependencies between different tasks, like I did over here, like right. So you, as you can see, this practice for HR module won't start until the first part of education task ends, right? So we specifically build it that way. So the tasks will start only after previous task is ended. But on some specific stages of this workflow, let's say in the end of this, right, you can even attach an action item to generate a document. You can generate the documents for your employees, let's say NDAs, let's say contracts or whatever, right? You can generate them based on the information about the person you're currently onboarding, right? So you can basically use the information you already storing in his profile to generate a document that can be signed in the system, that can be downloaded or exported within the system as well. So now the information about the people, right? Briefly. So this is the test company I have. These are all employees that I'm having in my profile. And basically, this is the org chart for them. I promised you, like the system will understand who is who in the company, right? So this is like Nick is CEO here, right? And we have the C-level management. We have all the like subordinates under each department. You can see it on employee level. You can see it on the departmental level. If you want to share this company structure with your investors or with your clients, you can easily export it with PDFs, but you can hide names firstly, right? Because you don't want your employees to be like hunted or something else, right? You can do so. In the employees directory, you are able to toggle between profiles. Each and every one of them it's not necessarily, but they may have the access to the system. And we define what level of access do they have, because unfortunately we're not all equal, right? And we can build an effective role and permission system within PeopleForce to replicate the hierarchy of your company. Some of your employees will be able to access, let's say, the compensation information, right? So they will be able to see salaries of each other. And some obviously will not be able to do so because we limited the access to this information. The same rule applies to the like personal information, right? We can store whatever over here on this personal tab. So some of the fields are here by the default, right? Like per first name, last name, email, or whatever. Some fields I created myself, just like my HR or company or 1, 2, 3, these 4 field, right? These fields can be validated and created to be anything. It can be a date. It can be a single or multiple select. It can be a file or employee select over here, right? So we can have it all here. And every field that we're storing, right? We can create blocks of information. This is called block personal contact, right? You can even create blocks like I did with this 30-day feedback over here. So you can store whatever information you want. And storing it effectively means that you can use it to generate documents for your employees. All you have to do is to upload the template with all the placeholders for necessary fields in the document, and you can generate it in the document tab within one click. Generate from template. You're selecting the folder the document will go to, and the template we are generating it from. If you have employees in the United States, let's say, right? It was a live example. So the company had a lot of employees in the US, and US has IRS, right? IRS is like their taxation agency, right? And that's the idea. Every employee, every new hire you have in the company should be followed with the I-9 form to the IRS, right? So that's a specific document, like basically 2 A4s of gaps, right, which we otherwise had to fill in manually. Our system helped these clients to automatically generate these I-9 forms using this instrument, filling in all these A4s in like two clicks, right? And then we were able to send this document specifically to IRS via the API that we're having, right? So that's the automation benefits, and that's what we can help you with as well, and your companies as well. So that's what we're doing here. Returning to the whole thing, right? So we're storing the personal information about the person. We're storing his job information, right? So we're controlling his pretty much the whole timeline in the company. We see when he was hired, exactly. We'll calculate his tenure. We will see how many probations did he have in our company and when they did occur. We will see all the position changes in our company, right? So basically all his job
Nick,
information. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, mate, but we are kind of running out of time. And as mentioned, I've seen you
Uh,
go for 2 hours.
Okay, all right. So I will brief it up, right? So then we have like compensation information. We can build processes like, time off management over here. Everyone will be able to take control over their like leaves, and they will be able to see their balance. You'll be able to control their balance via the requests, right? And everything like this. Speaking about the performance, right? So the person is onboarded. Now we have to engage him. Now we have to like provide him with like a feedback. That's the thing Vlad was telling you about, right? So we have a feedback management here in PeopleForce. We have OKR and KPI management over here. So in the person's profile directly, you are able to see all his OKRs and key results the person is responsible for. But not only, you'll be able to see the progress he did on this OKRs and KPIs, right? Everything is accessible via this profile. You'll be able to build a specific development, like personal development, individual development, or personal improvement plans for your employees, right? And you'll be able to set action items in these development plans and track the progress for each employee individually, right? So that's the development plan feature over here. You can take control over the one-on-ones, the communication within your company, and you'll be able to keep track of this communication using our one-on-one tools. So for Nick, you can see the list of all the communication that he's done within his company, right? So that's all the people he is talking to with all the dates. We can dive into this one-on-ones and see what did we talk through. Were there some action items left after this meeting, right? If there were shared notes or private notes, everything will be accessible over here, right? So that's the idea behind one-on-ones. We can launch performance reviews of, obviously we're able to evaluate our people after that, right? And out of that we will get something like this, right? So we will be able to see the weak points of our companies and like the strongest ones. We can see it on the company level, we can see it on the departmental level, because you can filter through that, or you can see it on a private level, right? You can dive into the personal evaluation cycles and see what's going on. For instance, for Alice, I can see that in autonomy, she evaluated her 5, while manager evaluated her 4, while her upward direct reports, her direct reports evaluated hers 2.5. She's not that autonomous from the point of view of her direct reports, which is bad, right? So now we can talk utilizing our one-on-one tool over here. So PeopleForce provides you with these kind of tools that will both support you and support your employees during their whole life cycle in the company. And, our goal, my goal, Vlad's goal, is to navigate you through this tool, give you the idea of how to use this tool properly in order to, to control and streamline your processes. So that's the idea of today's meeting, and PeopleForce, by the way, in general. So we're helping you with that. So if there are no further questions, I don't see any in Q&A section. I don't see any in chat, unfortunately. So if there are no questions, I'm waiting. I'm really waiting for the demos with you guys. If you want to join our demos, if you want to have some specific quality time personally with me or Vlad, feel free to ask, feel free to book. All the links will be in the the follow-up emails as well. So I'll be ready to help and assist and find a way to help your companies.
Yep. Nick, that's a great introduction, but as mentioned, you can go on for 2 hours, as can I. There's just so much to look into.
Yes, absolutely. That's like we have a lot to on the table, right? We have a lot of modules, we have a lot of functionality. So yeah, just feel free to guide and to navigate.
Well, I think we should say a huge thanks again to everyone who joined us. Again, the slides, recordings, you should be getting those. If you don't, then reach out to me or Nick, and we're happy to do a personal, like one-to-one session with you guys to see what you need in terms of HR digitalization and how PeopleForce and HRMS Guide can help you. So once again, thank you, Nick. Thanks. It's a pleasure seeing you as usual. And talk to everyone at some point later. Have a lovely evening. Stay safe.